believers, and welcome to another edition of the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. I am your host, Peter. Jaelyn Robinson and I have known one another since the very early 90s. We came up together in the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania hardcore scene. In this episode, we journey through a life filled with obstacles, music, and ultimate strength in the face of ultimate adversity. It's from that adversity that we ultimately get the latest iteration of her creative drive, Jaelyn's We Begin, a 7-song foray into a greater concept. It is a dark sci-fi epic that serves as an allegory as well as an autobiography. A little caveat, toward the end of this episode, I had overindulged slightly, and I think anyone with a trained ear for my voice can tell that I'd begun to slur a little bit, and for that I do apologize, but that is par for the course when you're running a podcast at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and you're getting a little loose talking to an old friend and just trying to enjoy yourself. I don't believe the interview suffered from it. If it did, I'm very sorry, but that's just what went down. That being said, I think everyone should enjoy this episode. And with that, I give to you Jaelyn Robinson on the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. So, I'm trying to figure out when the last time you and I had laid eyes on one another would have been. And I would think it would have been right after Hans passed away. At the memorial.
At his funeral?
Yeah, at his funeral. And then you guys had played a show like directly thereafter. And Harry, myself, and maybe like a half a dozen, like Nate, a bunch of us were dancing. You guys were playing Young Till I Die by 7 Seconds.
Oh, yeah.
And legitimately, that's the last time you and I laid eyes on one another.
Yeah.
And
that's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. And you've really done a lot since then, like musically.
Well, yeah. I tried to do a lot since then, and I mean, I've been in and out of bands, hardcore bands, punk bands, post-hardcore bands, post-punk bands, you name it, for like, it's got to be 25 years or so. It's been a lot.
If not better, because like, if we were to take it back to Extend, you know, you and I were very close in age. You were in Extend, we were in high school.
Right.
You were trying to, like, the lot of you were really trying to, like, not be the normal, like, Pennsylvania, like, tough guy nonsense hardcore band. Like there was a lot of poetry. There was a lot of emotive, without being emo, because you guys really weren't. Extend was not an emo band.
No.
But there was so much, like, hard on sleeve, that thrust of, this is who I am, fuck you if you don't like it type of thing.
Yeah.
And your playing was always like this amalgamation of, if like the Edge from U2 loved metal and hardcore. And,
right. Yeah.
You know,
I've actually heard something very similar to that. I've also been compared to a guitar player for 108. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. I guess our styles are apparently identical.
You and Vic?
I've never met him, so I wouldn't be able to say.
You and Vic DeCaro?
Yeah, Vic DeCaro. Apparently our writing styles are, or were at least back then, identical.
I would say, I wouldn't say identical. You and Vic both had an affinity, not only for the aggression of metal, but the austerity of hardcore and the, you know, artistry of someone like The Edge, or maybe even, if you want to dig deeper, like I really forget the name of the guitar player of Echo and the Bunnymen. but like there's that writing the offbeat that
Oh yeah.
that
I love that.
you do that really well, and you always did.
I love that because if anything is always just 4/4 timing, the tempo never changes. Everything it just gets really boring to me really fast. So I have to switch things up and make things more interesting for my own ears. Because if I don't, I'll never play it. I'll hate playing it out, and I just won't do it. So it has to be interesting for me to play, or I won't play it.
Yeah, and you always had this it was very simple for you to kind of find that pocket behind the backbeat. You know, like you didn't play a normal rhythm. Even in Extend,
No.
when we were kids, you know, like you found this way to kind of like lay behind the backbeat and make that the drive. So
Yeah.
people would like equate that to like the mathy, like Don Caballero of it all. But
Yeah. Yeah.
in all honesty, like when we were young, Extend did something that even like our good friends Option
Yeah.
or like Solus or the like, they didn't quite dig for that, and you guys did it pretty effortlessly. And
Yeah. Like back then, I was listening heavily to metal, like, and I mean like 80s metal, 90s metal, like Metallica and Megadeth, things like that. And but when I would write, it wouldn't sound anything like that. And I never sat down and decided this is how I'm going to write on this song or this is what I want the song to sound like. I would just write a part and I would say, okay, I think that sounds pretty cool. Then I would write a next part to go with it, you know, like verse and then maybe put a bridge and then a chorus and then put another bridge or something interesting to be able to get into the final chorus at the end of almost every song. But I never sat down and said, you know, how am I going to write this? Is it going to be exactly like the other songs? Do I want to go for a particular feel? I've never done that. I always just sit down and whatever comes out, comes out. And if it sounds like a completely different song than I wrote the last album, that's too damn bad. It's just the song that came out of me. So that I think back in, you know, in Extend days, I was very young too. Well, I was very young, but I was also very new to writing songs. So I honestly had no idea what the hell I was doing. It was just like, here's a guitar. My first guitar I got from my dad. It was a Lion. I don't know if you ever heard of Lion guitars. They were
I remember them.
Supermarkets and like, you know, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that thing. It was purple. It sounded like garbage, of course, and it couldn't take any gain, but I loved it and it was awesome. Yeah, and I just sat down and just started writing things. Another thing too is a lot of times people, when they learn to play, I'm self-taught. I've never gotten lessons or anything like that. I just picked up, my dad got me a guitar, started playing around with it, and that was the end. I just kept playing. Where was I going with that? Like a lot of times when people first start learning guitar, they'll learn songs that they like. They'll listen to something that they listen to a lot or something that influenced them, and they try to learn that song and then play it.
Yeah.
I've never done that. I know very few cover songs, honestly. Like when you told me, like when I was out playing somewhere, if you're like, play whatever, I wouldn't know it. And even if you asked me to play an old Extend song, I might know one or two riffs or play a Stalemate song or play a Label the Traitor song or you know, play any of those old bands. I would not be able to do it, honestly.
And to be honest with you, for a lot of my listeners who are not from our area, you had this knack for being involved in pretty much every pivotal band to my life, like from this area, because you went from, you know, Option was a pivotal band as well, but Extend, you know, then Stalemate, who we shared members with because Nate and Hans were also in a band with Jay Hudock and I around that same time, Distylysis. Yeah. And then Label the Traitor, like every band you were involved with became very important to the zeitgeist of the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area. And then
I think there was a circle of us. I think, there was maybe a handful of 7 or 8 of us. And if we were in a band, those were the bands that were out and playing.
Yeah.
I never meant to be that. It's just kind of happened. Like any band that I was in always had somebody else from the circle or 1 or 2 from the circle. Because when we started in the early 90s, there was no real scene in the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area. It was very few and far between. We had to beg venues to let us hold shows there, like the old venue called CC's. Everybody remembers CC's in Music.
Of course, yeah, it was a block from my house.
Yeah, we were the ones. We were one of the first anyway to get shows held there. When we first went there, Vince CC's, he still owes me money to this day. I think he owes like every band in all of the Northeast. He owes them money.
Yep. But
we had to go there and we had to beg him to hold hardcore shows there because he said, no, there's no money in that. I don't want that. There's too many the rough crowds. I don't want anything like that. We do cover band stuff. We, people get drunk and that's that. So we talked him into letting us do it, but we had to do pre-sales. Like he would say, okay, sell 35 or sell 40 tickets and then I'll let you have the show. So not even like guaranteed you can have the show. If you sell 40 tickets, I'll think about it. And that was one of the things. So like one of the first shows we ever did, we sold like 55 out of the 35 or whatever he wanted me to sell. And it worked out. And I think since it brought in a lot more people than he thought, and he actually made money that night, that's when all of a sudden I think he started to realize, hey, I can make money off of these kids.
Yeah.
They're not 21, but I can make money off of these kids. And it's not like I started that. I don't want you to think I opened CC's because I didn't.
Well,
but I was one of those
I was there. I remember
that tried my ass off to get shows held there.
Like it was you. It was like you guys. It was Dan Engvoldson from Plank.
Yeah.
There was that whole like clutch of us. There was like probably like 24. What you guys had done for CC's is what Ed Philbin and I and a group of our friends from Pittston had done for the Midtown Arcade. If you remember the Midtown Arcade,
I played a show there. I played a couple shows there, but there was one.
You did.
Oh gosh, I don't even know how many years ago that was. I remember that. There was no parking. You had to like park blocks away.
Yeah.
It was right in like a little strip, like right on this main street there.
Yeah, to park at the Kentucky Fried Chicken, more than likely.
Yeah, most likely. Oh my gosh, that is so a long time. I'm not going to remember any specifics, but I do remember playing a show there, and I remember it was awesome.
You guys played with 7 Seconds, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, probably. That sounds right.
That sounds right.
That sounds right.
Like I just have this recollection of, like you, Chris Wilbur, and like the whole group of us just kind of like having we had this way about us where we weren't dressing the part either, which was it was interesting. Absolutely. It was interesting.
We did not have any type of a costume to wear. Like a lot of kids. I don't want to be the old lady that's like, oh, those kids today. I don't want to do that. But back in the day, we just wore whatever the hell we had. We wore whatever we wore to high school that day or to wherever. And then we would come out and we would play shows. Like we didn't have to wear all black, or we didn't have to, wear eye makeup and have our hair dyed funky and stuff like that. Not that that's bad. I think that's cool. No. Everyone should express themselves as much as they want. But back then it was just like, if you see old videos from back then, the Northeast PA shows at least, it just looks like a bunch of drunk high school kids and early college kids doing silly stuff together. It doesn't look like a show does today. If you go to a show today, it's a very different vibe than it was back in 95 or 96.
No, there was a lot of, I dare say, love between all of us. Because even as far back as like 89, 90, 91, Dan Engvoldson would work his ass off to get a show at CC's, and all of us we were in high school. We were high school kids, junior high school kids, spilling into these shows and just being normal, just what was normal to us, and wandering in. And that was as punk as you could possibly be in those days. There wasn't a costume then.
Right. Wasn't a costume. There wasn't a feeling. There wasn't any kind of an agenda or any political alliance. It wasn't anything like that. It was just everybody got together. There wasn't a lot of shows back then either. Like I said, the scene was pretty small at that time in those areas. So if a show came out, it would be maybe one show a month, 2 if we were lucky. So everybody that wanted to go and see these shows all came out to the show, no matter who was playing. Didn't really matter. They were there to see their friends, to have fun with their friends, to smile and laugh and hug each other and just have a good time. And after that, like when the scene really started picking up and the shows kind of got saturated, where there would be like 3 or 4 shows a week, all of a sudden attendance started to drop because it was spread so thin. And I don't think it ever really recovered from that. So it was almost like success was an arrow, you know.
Yeah. When the life of agony of it all kind of happened, I mean, like Mina really, like the whole group of them, but Mina really ingratiated herself into the Scranton scene, you know. So there was like, you would get Life of Agony playing at CC's, but then on the same night you'd get Lifetime playing at the Mantis Green in Wilkes-Barre. And then Proof Rocks would have a show going on too, and it got too big for its britches and kind of knocked us flat. Which was sad, because I remember a time when, like, if New School was playing, like
we actually played with New School at CC's. At that one show. I don't know if it was Into Another. Maybe Into Another played that show too, or it might have been a different one. But it was such a weird group of different bands to come in and play. And like I was saying to you just a little bit ago, that now when you go to a show, every band sounds the same, because if it's a punk show, all the bands have to be very punk. If it's a hardcore show, all the bands have to be very hardcore. It's never like a conglomeration of different original music anymore. It just seems like everything is very niche, and I don't know. I think that's a little bit sad. Like I want to go to a show and I want to see like a really cool emo band open up or something, and then have Cannibal Corpse come out, and then have, you know, New School, like a new version of New School come out and hardcore rap and stuff. Like that's what I like. That makes the night fun to me. But hearing 6 bands all sound exactly the same, with essentially the same guitar sound, the same style, it gets real boring real fast for me.
Yeah, especially since, like, you know, when we were coming up, you would get shows like Into Another, New School, or, you know, like, do you remember the local band to us, Rosetta Stone, who were almost like hippie-ish in their way, and
it was like hippie rock, weird like stuff.
It was great though, because like even though they didn't fit with what a lot of the other bands from our scene were doing, it fit because it didn't fit anywhere else.
Yeah,
that was the point. That was the point.
It fit because it was original music. Nobody was doing covers. We weren't just a bar cover band. We were just all people around the same age playing original music and having fun. I didn't care what the band sounded like or whoever we were playing with, as long as, you know, we had people to play with. That's all I cared about.
I think that's what Extend did very well, though. And I keep bringing up Extend because that was where it all kind of began.
That's where I began, for sure.
That's where you began musically. And you guys never sounded like Option, like Self-Determination, like Burial Ground, like any of those old, you know, like early 90s bands from hardcore bands from our area. Even though, Burial Ground had the death metal thing going for them, but you guys were very melodic, very it called to mind almost like a Stone Roses of it all, because there was that lilt to the guitar that didn't quite adhere to bands like Sick of It All, bands like Strife.
Yeah, it's
You know what I
because
mean?
anytime I was using, I would go out there. I was one of the only people, especially at a hardcore show, I'd be using chorus and reverb and
Mhm.
things to give my guitar just a little bit different of a sound to make it, sparkle a little bit. And no one in a hardcore band wanted their guitar to sparkle. They wanted it to sound tough and cool. And
Yeah.
I was like, no, 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 it's got to sound really cool when I hit this particular chord. And then I would play that chord and they would understand what I was talking about. Um, yeah, like I said, when I was writing in that band and Extend, I mean, that was technically my second band ever. My first band I was ever in was called Forefront, and
Hmm.
that was, look, we had no idea what the hell we were doing. But I mean, it was a couple of my family members, and it was Ian. I'm not going to remember his last name. He did the drums.
Ian
Um,
Anderson.
Ian Anderson. There
Yeah,
you
he
go.
was in Feculence with me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, he was in that very first thing. I don't even
Hmm.
remember how I met him. But yeah, that was a cool little thing that we did for fun. But after that, that's when Extend started, and that's like when we did Extend, that's when I realized, hey, I really like this. This is something I want to do forever. Like I don't want to stop writing music. It was everybody needs that creative outlet, I think, every once in a while.
Hmm.
And for me, it was definitely early on, it was music, and I just said, I can write 10 songs in a week and because the stuff's easy.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my outlet.
And I legitimately recall having seen you on multiple occasions. It appeared to me anyway that you were almost like leaving your body, like because you'd be playing and
Yeah.
you'd look up, and you were gone.
Yeah.
It was like
That's that's
legitimately.
that's the feelings that I would get sometimes, like when writing that, and or I mean playing that type of stuff. I never actually left my body, so no, I
Well,
don't. No one has
no,
to get scared.
yeah,
But I guess when that feeling hits you, it's just you're so into the music. It doesn't really matter what the lyrics are. It doesn't matter what's going on. It's just that feeling of almost euphoria that I'm on stage. I'm doing something that I love. I'm playing awesome music, and it's just that's what it is. It's just complete euphoria that will overcome me, and that's when I'm just gone. If you tried to talk to me, I wouldn't be there at that
yeah.
moment. I would just not be there. I would be somewhere way in the back of my head.
It was really enjoyable to experience from an audience member standpoint, because it's not as if you just stopped playing or something. You were in it. You were deep in it. And it harkened back for me, even though it's so far from our scene, but to watch like a Jimi Hendrix or someone of that ilk just completely lose themselves in the miasma of spirituality with that lies within music. And
Yeah. Oh,
you would
absolutely.
you would do
Like
that.
it's in there. It's in there. If you tap into it, it'll take you places. It'll take you, I mean, mentally, physically, emotionally. It will take you places. Uh, Not a lot of people can tap into it. You have
Mhm.
to be really, really into what you're doing, and you have to really understand every single note and um, every melody, where it's going to go, where it came from. You have to just be in there and really feeling the flow of everything to get to that point to where everything just fades away. Your fingers will keep doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
but other than that, you're just not there anymore. Yeah, I mean, I would never compare myself to Jimmy. That would be insane. But he's like, but yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well,
Watching old videos of him.
to watch someone in lockstep with something so shamanic and so utterly, spiritual beyond anything that I could convey in language. Just we're all in this together. We're all enjoying this. Everyone's moving in unison, and you just, I would watch you go. And I've seen you play enough times to have a shorthand for it, because I know it. I know these songs. I know what's going to happen next, and you're gone.
Yeah. And a lot of times when that would happen, and I would be totally into it, after the show was over, I would look down and my hand would be bleeding, and I would have no idea how that happened. My hand, I have a big, large cut here on my forearm that I got when I was little, because of a glass accident. But anyway, if I don't wear a little band around my forearm when I'm playing, that's why you'll notice, especially in the later years, you'll see me with like a wristband, but up on my forearm. That's because if that rubs on the guitar too much, it will open up and it will start to bleed. Not gushing blood, but enough to make a mess. And sometimes that would happen, and I have no idea what the hell happened, or how it happened, or why is my guitar red now.
Yeah. And I do remember seeing things of that ilk, and there was never any pretense about it. But I remember, like, one of my best friends, Brian Amershaw, whenever we would, I don't know if you remember Brian. He was from Dallas. He was in the band.
I remember the name. I don't remember him particularly.
From Guardrail, the band Guardrail.
Right.
Every time we would go to see you guys, he'd be like, "Oh my God, Jaelyn's gonna go for it tonight, and we're gonna." Do you think she's gonna bleed? I'm like, well, yeah, probably. That's gonna happen.
Yeah. She probably will break at least 4 or 5 strings as well throughout the set.
Yeah.
I was famous for breaking strings because I went a little too hard. But it was so worth it. It's just, that's how I got there. So that's what I wanted to do.
Watching that attack was always worth it for us, and you carried that over into every band you'd done thereafter in this area anyway. I mean, and there's so many. Like, there was never like too much of a hiatus for you either, really.
Well, there was a hiatus right after I transitioned, because as you know, I'm a trans woman, and right after I transitioned, I thought that I was never going to play again. When I transitioned, I was in a band called Label the Traitor.
Yeah, with Steve.
Yeah, with Steve and all those guys, Keats, and I figured, when I transitioned, the band started breaking up shortly after, but that had nothing to do with the fact that I transitioned. Those guys were super awesome and super sweet to me, and they still are to this day. I love all of them. Keats was moving away, which is why we were breaking up. But anyway, I got to play our last song as the real me, which was amazing, because up until that moment, many, many people did not know. Like, there was rumors here and there that she was a little bit awkward and weird, but I got to play that Label the Traitor's last show as me.
Yeah.
And it was the most amazing feeling I think I've ever had. I was terrified the entire time, of course, because I was afraid I was going to get beat up. I was afraid someone was going to make fun of me.
We were on alert, just so you know. Anybody fucks with Jaelyn, we go. And it's, okay. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I did not know that, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
Everything was super cool that night. Everyone was super sweet to me and everything. So, but anyway, after that show was done and the band was no longer doing anything, I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to be able to play this kind of music again. I mean, no one's going to want a trans woman in their band playing guitar, because at that time, no one else in the music industry that I knew anyway was out or transitioning or anything like that. This was 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Roughly. So I was like, all right, well, I guess that's it for my music. I'm probably never going to play music again. If I did, it would just be by myself. So I went on a hiatus and I sold my equipment and everything. I kept my guitar. I still have that Les Paul, the Sunburst Les Paul.
Yep.
I can't get rid of that. That guitar has been all over the country with me multiple times. It has my blood literally in there somewhere. It's in that guitar. So there's no way I would ever get rid of that. But I got rid of my amp. I had the Mesa Boogie stuff. I got rid of all of that stuff because I was like, I'm never going to need it ever again. But then eventually, after I transitioned fully and I was, 100% comfortable with myself, I started thinking, maybe I can start playing again. And at that time, Laura Jane Grace came out and she transitioned and
Yep.
she didn't get lit on fire. So I was like, hey, you know what? If she didn't get lit on fire, maybe I won't get lit on fire by playing music again. So I started thinking, well, who do I know that still plays music? And I thought of Nathan Gray. And I
Yeah.
was like, all right, well, I'm gonna contact Nathan Gray. So I bothered the hell out of him on MySpace, if you remember MySpace.
Yeah.
And we were talking back and forth. We had been friends for years.
Yeah.
And I just kept bugging him. I was like, find me a band, find me a band, find me a band. And then finally he was like, why don't you just come play with me with my solo stuff? So I said, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And that's what got me back into it. So I'm very grateful for that. And since then, he has become literally my brother. His family adopted me.
Yeah.
So not legally, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
So we have our differences. We had a falling out. I think everybody knows that by now.
Yeah.
But that's between he and I. That's that's our personal business, and everything is fine. We're talking. Everything's good.
I'd seen.
No,
I wasn't.
no hard feelings.
I wasn't going to bring it up, and I'd seen that you guys were good. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't blow up your. I love you. I wouldn't blow up your spot anyway. But there's that happens in interhuman relationships. It's totally normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially when you're creating music. But to that end, you get. I'm going to grab the cassette.
Yeah.
This right here, which
Yeah.
is, in my opinion, a realization of everything, all of your output, which of course I'm intimately familiar with. I'm from our area. I've been following you since we were kids. This is like the delivery of a promise that I'd heard in 1991.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah,
You know what
I mean, like,
because
not much has changed from my writing. It's very similar. It's gotten more sophisticated. It's gotten better because I got better at playing guitar, of course.
Yeah.
But the writing is still there. It's still me. It's still like I said, I don't sit down and I think, now I want to write this kind of a song or want to be this kind of a song. I just sit down and write a part. And actually what I've been doing recently is I've been finding drum loops online because obviously I can't get our drummer to come and sit down and drum while I'm just writing random shit, because like that he wouldn't be able to do that. He lives like 2 hours from me.
Yeah.
So I get random drum loops, put them through the computer, hook my guitar into the computer, and then while the drum are playing, I'll just start playing something and just keep playing and playing and playing until I hear something that I like, and I'll hit record and I'll keep going. And then I'll stop and then I'll do it again, maybe a different drum loop, different kind of thing, and hit record and keep going. And then I'll go back to that later and I'll find those parts that I wrote on those individual things and I'll say, okay, I think I can build a song off of this. And that's kind of what my writing process is at this point.
But the only similarity I hear is intensity, because in truth, you've really blossomed as a songwriter. You've become more you, and it's very self-evident within the confines of this record, and it's utterly powerful to the point where every single song on this record, just there was no filter between your hands and like tape. It felt very immediate, yet very metered, very exacting, What
Yeah.
was the
Well, thank you.
what was the
That's the
process
first thing
like?
that's the first thing I wrote extensively, or not extensively, but completely as the real me. I didn't have to hide anything. I didn't have to pretend. And I didn't have a boss. I didn't have anybody telling me, don't write this, don't write that, make that faster, make that slower. When you have complete control like that, you can really write from your heart. And that's what I did, to make that record. And it took me over a year. I started writing that probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so before I left Nathan Gray. No, it was a year. It was about a year because, like, I remember I decided I was doing it about a year before I left Nathan Gray, and then once that I was done with Nathan Gray, playing music and touring and having to worry about that kind of stuff and being available all the time, I was like, well, you know what I can do? Now I can focus 100% on this record and not have to only put 20%, 30% into it. So that's when I really sat down and fleshed out all those songs and was able to really get it going and get some help. I got John Vogeley, the bass player for Option.
From Option, yep.
I got him to do the bass on the whole album, so that was amazing. And I got some more random people. I don't want to just start giving out names. If people want their names, they're on the record right now. But yeah. I got a lot of friends helping me out to make that thing become a reality. And I'm forever grateful that they did.
Well, the Vogeley connection is obvious because he was always in the pocket but funky, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Playing the bass up real high.
Oh yeah, exactly. His strap was never longer than like this. This
no,
is it. It was his strap.
Vogeley played mad high.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are similarities to your guitar style from when we were kids, but this is more explorative.
You know? Oh yeah, definitely. Because like I have a boyfriend now. His name is Steven. He's actually playing guitar now for the band that Jaelyn has become. Mm-hmm. And he is a metalhead, loves metal. Like, all he listens to is metal. Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and all of those metal bands. And so I guess like listening to that constantly and hearing it constantly kind of influenced me slightly. So like when you're hearing the album, you will hear a little bit of influences from a little bit of metal-y things here and there.
Yeah.
But that's because of that. It's because, you know, you surround yourself with a particular thing. You under no control of your own, you're going to start to emulate that a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's really cute. He's a nice looking guy. You did well there. And you know, the metallic undertones only add to, you know, you always had a metal thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because like I said, growing up, I listened to all those metal bands. I kind of went away from it after I started writing and started doing other stuff. Then I only listened to like post-hardcore, emo, like a little bit of metal here and there. But it was always that kind of stuff, melodic hardcore type stuff. That's what I was really into, even though that's not really what I write today. But if you were to look at my little MP3 player that I have that I put in my car, every band on there, with an exception of a few, every band on there is from like 2000 to like 2005, maybe 2008. I'll push it a little bit, but every band is like right around that era, and that's when I feel music was at its best, you know, because it would not music was at its best, but it best reflected what I wanted to hear in music.
Exactly. Yeah.
That way. And so that's pretty much all I listen to now. And it's sad. I would like to start listening to some newer stuff because I know there's some awesome stuff out there.
Well, yeah, Be Well is fantastic.
yeah, like super rad bands are out there now, and I don't even listen to them anymore. So I'm gonna start asking people to send me stuff.
Well, I mean, I just named a band that's comprised of people in our age group or older. Be Well is members of Battery and
Be
like
well, yeah,
Ashes, and
I know of Be Well. I don't know them. Hopefully,
you,
I'll get to know them someday.
I that's one of the few bands that when I listen to them, I actually well up in the car while I'm
Really?
driving to work. And this record, I well up when I listen to this
Yeah.
because it has, outside of the heaviness, outside of whatever sonic ideas that are behind it, there's an like an emotional weight to everything that, of course, I know your story, so there's a part of that that plays into it. But had I not known it, I think it would still affect me in the same way because you're you, it's gut level. It's very gut level. It's very no BS. Just it's a journey.
Thank
It's
you very much.
it's a
That's what I
mat.
wanted it to be. I wrote it to be that. I wrote it to be. I mean, it does have a somewhat of a story backing it.
Yeah.
It's a concept album, and even the next stuff that we're doing is going to be a continuation of the first album. Like we're going to be releasing 3 singles in the next few months. Over the next few months, I should say. The first one should be due out in maybe a couple of weeks, hopefully. And it's a continuation of where that one leaves off. And I don't remember where I was going now.
Well, just the emotional impact and the story behind.
Oh
this
yeah,
record.
the story. Yeah, it's a like I said, it's a concept album. It's a giant space opera. I am gonna soon. I'm gonna write a synopsis of what the actual story is and what some of the words mean in the songs, so people can understand what that means. Because sometimes I'll say something like, "I don't fear the dread" in one of the songs. That's one of the lines. The
Mhm.
dread is actually a ship, but you wouldn't know that unless you knew the story.
Yeah.
Or a reaper. A reaper is a type of a prison ship, which is also a warship. And so that song Reaper's Roll is all about the Reaper ship catching up with our heroes and is about to destroy them. So that's what that song is about. But that being said, every song has a personal meaning to me as well. It's not just the story. Every song, all of the lyrics also have personal meanings to me. It's a double meaning.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm glad you're still a sci-fi nerd. That makes me happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have to. Like, I've been wanting to write a novel for years and years and years, and I've had several ideas, but every time I sit down, I get to page 25, and I'm just like, I'm bored. I don't want to do this anymore. So I figured, you know what I'll do? I'll do it in music. I'll write music to tell a story that I've been wanting to tell for years now. And in doing that, it'll make me do it and make me write out the synopsis of each album and stuff like that. And hopefully, people will start to understand certain words and certain dialogue in the movie. In the movie, it's not a movie. It'll never be a movie, but in the songs that people hopefully they'll start to understand that better.
It's kind of fascinating though, because I remember us being kids. We were into the same things. Like we were both into martial arts. We were both into sci-fi, and we were both into hardcore. And that kind of like was a tie that bound. But there's that sci-fi-esque like vibe to this, and the story and the drive. It never feels convoluted.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Like I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't. It's a very simple story.
Yeah.
I'll probably end up screwing it up when I try to write it out, but it's really easy to follow on. Like in that first album, our heroes begin their journey into trying to destroy what is called the Seven Sisters of Pleiades, which is I don't want to really get into this because we'll be here all night and people will start thinking I'm absolutely insane. But the Seven Sisters of Pleiades are an empire with 7 people. They're not all female. They're just called the Seven Sisters of Pleiades. And they rule what is known as our livable galaxy. Each of them own certain solar systems. And they're tyrants. Think of them as Vladimir Putin on a bad day. That's pretty much what these people are. They're terrible, terrible monsters. And the rest of the people in the galaxy are trying to get out from underneath their thumb. And that's where this album starts, where a death of one of our heroes in the story called Lumen, her mother gets killed by one of the 7 sisters known as Raim, R-A-I-M. And so Lumen snaps and decides that she's going to try and do something. So she goes and tries to control or talk to a group of old soldiers called the Ghosts. That's in there's a song in there that it talks about going to the ghosts and letting the ghosts do certain things. And she goes to recruit the ghosts, which are few and far between, but they are kind of like, think of them as like the best fighters that have ever lived. They're generals, all in their own. And she needs them in order to have a chance. So she has to convince them to come with her to begin this whole uprising, this whole rebellion to rip off Star Wars. And in the end of that, it's pretty obvious because there's a little voiceover in the end where it says that they do end up killing Raim, but Lumen dies as well. And but there's much more to the story. That's only the very first sister. There's 6 more to go, and it's not all good. It's not all good news. Yeah, I like George R.R. Martin because he kills off main characters all the time, and that's
all the time. Yeah,
that's kind of what I do too. So,
it's kind of great too because there's also kind of Dario Argento of it all as well because you get the sisters, the I forget what Argento had. Like there were the Lacrimosa and the like in Suspiria and
yeah,
like there's there to have this kind of mythos behind what you're writing. It makes it all it's biblical almost.
Yeah, it's not that biblical. I mean, I'm an anti-theist, so.
Well, no, not as far as
it is, but
not as far as like theism, but as far as like backstory as
oh yeah,
mythos.
Yeah, I have an entire universe built in my head that this thing goes in, and I really need to write it down because who knows what can happen. I've already had 2 strokes in my lifetime because of a medical condition that I have in my bone marrow. But my friends know about that, and it's not really worth talking about. It's under control now. Everything is, we're working on it, and we're going through it, and we're gonna extend my life as long as we possibly can. So
that has nothing to do with anything other than genetics.
It's genetics. It's a very rare mutation in my bone marrow that causes my bone marrow to be overactive, and it produces far too many blood platelets. Blood platelets are, for people that don't know, that's what clots you. Like when you get a cut, that's what makes you stop bleeding. when you have too many of them, one or two things can happen. Either they can lose all their stickiness and you become a hemophiliac, which means if you get cut, you can just bleed out. It never stops bleeding. You just it's like a hole in you. Or it can go the other way and they can stick together, stick to themselves because there's too many of them, and then they can form clots, and that's what happened to me. And I had 2 different strokes because of that. But right now I'm on a form of chemotherapy that is keeping my bone marrow in check and making it so hopefully that won't happen again.
Yeah. It pisses me off because you're my age. We're too young for this shit.
Yeah, no, I know.
You know?
I know. Otherwise, I'm relatively healthy. I can't really think of too much that's wrong with me other than all of the bull crap that I have to deal with because of that. But other than that, I'm good. And I plan on staying good for at least another couple albums to annoy the hell out of people.
And people don't understand, like, it's stressful enough to transition, to have that, like, you're taking hormones, you're embarking on a very, very massive journey as it is, and then you compound it with a genetic disorder that causes strokes. I mean, like, that's gotta be brutal.
It's terrible. It's terrible because like I got to the point where I was finally myself. Everything was great, and most of my friends accepted me. My whole family accepted me from what I know anyway. So I've had a nice support circle around me since the beginning, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So I have all that done, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you're happy and you're living life the way you're supposed to live life, and here you go. We just shortened your life by 30 years, and it's like, what the hell? What the hell did I do to somebody to make this happen?
Yeah.
And it's funny. The reason why we even found this, I never would have found this. I would be dead by now if we didn't find this, is because I went to go and get breast augmentation surgery because I wanted that. And to do that, you have to do preliminary blood work. And when they did that, they came back and they said, your platelets are way too high. Like, what is going on? So I said, well, maybe it's the hormones. I don't know. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. So we stopped a bunch of different things, but it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's how we found it. So once we found out what was going on, then I was like, all right, well, now we have to get my levels to normal because I want my goddamn boobs. I've wanted my boobs for many, many, many years.
Your whole life.
Without my boobs.
Yeah.
So, eventually we were able to get the levels the way they're supposed to be, and I talked to the surgeon, and the surgeon said we can go forward after I gave him my okay and everything. So, and that was that. And now, like I said, I'm just dealing with it. I'm just taking care of it, and everything is going very well thus far.
Thankfully, because I mean, from my end of everything, it's like I've been watching you blossom, okay, and having known who you were since 1990, 91, and cheering for this person that I've just had ultimate respect for, wanting this person to succeed and to thrive, and knowing that you went through strokes and things like that. It obviously sucked for you, but for me, I'm like, fuck, why can't she win? And you're still really positive and holding it together, and I really applaud that, because I don't know if the shoe were on the other foot, I would be that strong in the face of it.
That's the thing, though, because people feel like that until you're faced with it, until you
Yeah.
are literally faced with it, and then it's what happens. You dig deep down, and you either decide to stop or you move forward. And my motto is always move forward. Like never let anything stop you.
Hmm.
Even if you have to only move forward an inch, you're still moving forward. Just
Yeah.
keep doing it, and that's what you really need to do. And that's what I did for myself. I never let myself get upset by it. I just as soon as it happened, and it was, we figured out what was going on and how to not fix it. Because the only thing that can fix it is possibly a bone marrow transplant,
Hmm.
and that at this stage it would be too dangerous for me to do that. So I don't even want to try and do that right now unless I absolutely have to eventually. Um, but again, I lost my train of thought. That's what two strokes will do for you.
Yeah, obviously, but just pulling it back in, you handled it in a way that I don't think I ever could.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you very much. But
Very strong, very
when
strong.
you're, well, you have to be strong in order to be a transgender woman,
Mm.
especially in today's world. In the past, it's been much, much worse. Today, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, and you
Um,
transitioned before anyone I ever heard of.
yeah, but when I transitioned like 17 years ago,
Yeah.
it no one had even heard of what it was. They didn't know what it meant. Like I talked to my doctors, they didn't really understand what the term was or what it meant. And people would say to me, I would say, that I'm going to transition, and they would say, "What? So like you're a drag queen?" And I'd be like, "Oh God, no, that is not what I am. Nothing against drag queens, but transgender women are not drag queens. A
No.
drag queen can be a transgender woman, but it's not the other way around." Um, so yeah, like nobody really knew what the hell was going on. So forget about getting medical help back then. So I did everything myself. I was self-medicated back then. I would get hormones from overseas. I don't know how legal that was. It probably wasn't very legal, but you know what? I don't care.
Yeah.
That's way back when. But that's what I did back in the day in order to become me, because nobody had that kind of expertise, especially not in the Scranton area.
No.
I mean, geez, there's a bar and a church on every corner in Scranton. And like, you drink all night, and the next morning you go to church, and then you leave church and you go back to the bar and you drink all night. Like nobody knows what the hell transgender was.
Yeah.
Back then, nobody knew what transitioning was. In order to get my chest surgery, I had to call around to many different. Hold on, Alexa's telling me something. Turn down the thermostat. She told me to turn down the thermostat, Alexa.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. I had to call several different surgeons at that time because nobody did that kind of surgery that I knew of. And every time I would call a plastic surgeon, they would say, "No, I'm sorry, we don't do that. No, I'm sorry, we don't do that." Um, and the hardest part, of course, they would say, "No, we don't do that on men. No, we don't do that on male chests and things like that." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you talking about? It's the same procedure. Do you
Yeah.
go through the vagina? Like, how is it different?" So I would get
Especially since you're not a fucking man.
yeah, I know, and I would get really pissed off at them. And one time I was at work. That's back when I worked at Mark's Tattooing.
Yeah.
Um, and I finally called a doctor in Allentown. I'm not going to remember his name now. I don't think he does it anymore, honestly. Gerino or Gerano, something like that. I talked to his secretary, and I was like, I need to have this done. I'm a transgender woman. Um, will the doctor do that? And she immediately said no. She was like, "No, I'm sorry, we don't do that." So I said, "All right, look, you know what? I'm at my wit's end. I'm about to just scream. Do me a favor and please personally ask the doctor for me. If you won't get him on the phone for me, please personally ask the doctor for me And then no matter what he says, obviously that's what goes. But
Yeah.
I'm tired of being turned away by secretaries. So I said, please ask the doctor. She said, okay, honey, I will ask the doctor for you and let you know. And then the very next day, she called me back and said, I talked to the doctor, and he said, yes, of course, he will do the surgery for you. So that was amazing. It was euphoric, for me to be able to have that done and to have to work my ass off in order to get it done.
What year was that?
So probably roughly 15 years ago.
Jesus.
Maybe 16, no, probably 15 or 14 years ago is when I had that done.
And to believe that would be something that people would clutch their pearls over.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, maybe if I lived in LA or San Francisco or one of those, or, maybe even in Philly at that time, I don't know what the scene was like here at that time.
Yeah.
But living in a small town or a medium-sized town anyway, like Scranton, nobody would even consider doing something like that, because it's something you saw on Jerry Springer. It was something you saw on those talk shows that were all about, ridiculous things, and trying to legitimize something that people saw as weird and freakish and perverted and strange. They'll come kicking and screaming, but eventually we are starting to make headway now, hopefully.
What's funny is I remember when it all kind of happened, none of us were really that freaked out by it.
Yeah, I mean,
like within our circle, like it was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like we all we all are from the same kind of creed, like where like we all cared about each other. We always helped each other. If we see someone fall down, we pick them up. Someone needed $5, you loan them $5. Like that's just how it was back in the day. And it was never like the New York City hardcore scene where like, it was about like being as tough as you can and that kind of stuff. It was never like that. It was just everybody was just cool.
We were artsy kids. We were artsy kids.
Yeah, and a lot of them were gay and bi, and they didn't even know it, or if they did know it, certainly didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like when I came out, that was really hard to do. But when I did it, I was expecting to lose everything. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep all of my friends and my family. Like they're all going to hate me. They're going to call me terrible names. They're going to never talk to me again. So it was the hardest thing I had ever done, for sure. Hardest thing I probably will ever do. It's essentially, not literally, of course, but it's like ending your life as you knew it, 100%, because no one will ever look at you the same ever again after you come out and you say this kind of thing, like, I'm transgender and I'm transitioning. That part of your life is over. Can you get some of it back? Possibly, but everything has to restart from then on. You have to regain trust with people. You have to re-earn friendships with people, because they start to see you and treat you as a different person than what you were. Even though I've always been the same, I've been a woman since I was born.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize it until I was about 9 or 10. And then, of course, I couldn't do anything about it because no one even knew what it was. Neither did I. I never heard the term transgender until I read about it on web TV. Do you remember web TV?
Yeah. Yep.
Way back in the day, you get that little box. I don't even remember who sold it, but you get the box. You hook it into your phone line, and you hook the box up to your TV. And this little box was kind of like one of the first affordable computers that you could only browse the internet. It was just a browser that would come up, and you could browse, literally, web TV. You browse the internet on your TV. That was so long ago. But I found places like GeoCities had websites that were by other trans women and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I guess I'm not a terrible perverted freak, because there's more people that are just like me. So obviously I'm not that broken. So this must be some kind of a thing. And so it was really nice to find out that I wasn't alone. But back then, when I was very young, uh, and I wanted to transition when I was like 16, couldn't do it. Wanted to transition again when I was like 18, couldn't do it because of music and bands at that time. And then I wanted to do it again at like 21, couldn't do it. 25, couldn't do it. But I wanted to do it for many, many, many years. The time was never right. It was either I was in bands that were touring, or I was in a relationship where the girl that I was dating would never, ever believe it or whatever, and I would care for her and I wouldn't want to lose her. So I would just keep putting myself on the back burner and say, it's all right. Just keep putting myself back and back and back. And then when I hit 30 years old, and I was like, you know what? I am not getting younger. I am not getting younger. I am not happy. This is not who I am. This is not who I've ever been. It's time for me to do this. Either I do this now or this is going to kill me eventually. So I decided to do it. And I was, like I was saying before, I was ready to lose everything. I was ready to lose my friends, my family, my job, which I did lose at that time. But it was still so worth it, because what I gained from it was much, much better friends. Because if their friends are going to stick with you through doing that kind of thing, even back then, you know that you can trust them. You know that they're going to be cool people. Family, some of my family were pretty wiggly about it. They didn't really didn't understand, didn't really like it. But the ones that mattered were the ones that really did care, and the ones that supported me. After that day that I decided that I was doing it, and I told all of the most important people in my life, I decided, okay, that's it. Now I don't care who knows or who finds out. I don't have to hide anymore. And I can just be me 100% of the time. And it doesn't matter anymore. And that was such an incredible feeling to know, like, I don't have to hide anymore. I don't have to go into my bedroom and lock the door and pray nobody comes to the door, pray nobody calls me and interrupts me, or, something like that. So I'd go into my bedroom, close and lock the door, and I would be myself in there. And I didn't have to do that anymore. I could be myself openly and outwardly. And if people didn't like it, I don't care. I know martial arts. Go ahead, try something.
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember you were absolutely tough as shit. And furthermore, I can't imagine and I was so uncomfortable with myself, and I'm just this cisgendered, normal, straight fucking kid who felt so uncomfortable in his skin. To be myself was brutal.
Yeah.
But for you to be yourself, I can't fucking fathom it. It just, to me, when you had first come out, I empathized immediately, and I didn't understand, because I'm just me. I'm just a normal dude. But
nobody could really understand it. You can't understand it unless you're experiencing it.
Exactly.
And even then, every trans woman or every trans man is different. So, like, their feelings might be different than my feelings. They might feel euphoria where I feel dysphoria, or they might feel shame where I feel pride, or vice versa. Like, it's everybody is different. That's why there's an umbrella, the transgender umbrella. So it tries to fit everybody. There's plenty of people. I have non-binary friends. I have trans male friends, trans female friends. I have, and obviously I have a bunch of straight male and cisgender male and cisgender female friends. And I'm so glad that it's a lot easier today for people to come out, definitely in the more progressive areas, I shall say. Like, if you're in Mississippi and you're coming out, you're gonna have troubles that I did not have. But it's definitely getting better now. And so as hard as it was for me, as hard as it was for me to push myself forward and live the way I was going to live, regardless of what I lost. Like I said, this is my third time now. I sound like a broken record. I was ready to lose everything. I was ready for it. It didn't matter to me. Luckily, I didn't. Luckily, most of what I had remained, and I was able to rebuild my personality with the real me up front rather than hidden behind a suit of armor that I was wearing since puberty. I would have to wear the rage suit of armor. I would have to wear that persona as someone that people could see, and that person could take all of the slings and arrows and all that kind of stuff, and I could keep my soft, chewy, emotional center way away from the rest of the world. And then when I was able to take that armor off and throw it away, it was weird. It was terrifying because then my soft, chewy center was just out for everybody.
Yeah.
But it was also amazing that I didn't need that armor anymore.
I'm gonna take 2 seconds. I just want to go check on my son. I'll be right back. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
cool.
Sorry, Jaelyn.
That's okay. How old is your son?
He's 3. I'm
3.
Yeah. I'm gonna be 46, and my son's 3, and my daughter's 21.
Oh, that's cool. 21. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be 47 next month.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because you would brought up your suit of armor, that rage suit of armor, and that you put on this cloak to kind of protect yourself from all of us, I think. And that pains me, because I was part of that whole group of people that were around you, and it to me it sucks that we weren't I guess in the time where you needed us to be who we were, ready for who you were. And
right.
I know I wasn't like directly there, but like I was in the periphery. And
no, and I know what you're saying, but like it wasn't just that I was afraid of people. I was also, I was terrified of myself. Like it's embarrassing. And you like I didn't know how people were going to react. At that time, if I had come out when I was, say 18 or 19, back when I was, in Extend, and it would not have been the same. It would have been a completely different world. The world would have been, I think, a lot more cold to me than it did 17 years ago. So the time had to be right, I think, for me, but it also had to be right for the world to start to accept people for being who they are rather than what they are determined to be.
I think everybody loved you very much at that point, though. And
I would hope so.
We did. We really did. So many of us just had this reverence for what you brought to music and who you were, because you were always cool to everybody. Like, we all had the same opinion.
Yeah, I was always quiet. Like for sure, I was very quiet. I was the quiet one because it was hard to talk through that armor. That
right.
Big ass set of armor. The only thing that it couldn't protect was who I was on the inside, and you could get a lot of that through listening to me and talking to me. So a lot of times I would stay quiet intentionally because I didn't want to let myself express myself or let my emotions come out, because that would in my mind, I was betraying what I was trying to do with the whole illusion of trying to be someone that I wasn't.
I don't know if it was the fact that we were both martial artists that maybe you talked to me so much, but you always like made a point. Hey, Pete, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
where this, that, or we always, like, every show, I always had a dialogue with you at some point, and it was always good. But you were always quiet as far as most people were concerned.
Yeah, I've
And
always been an introvert. I've always been introverted and socially awkward. But the social awkwardness has since started to fade because I've been able to be myself. But back then, I didn't like to talk to anybody. I only had my little circle of friends, which was, like the 10 of us or maybe 12 of us that I would talk to and stuff. But there was, even back then, people would be wanting to do an interview with me for a zine or something like that, and I'd always turn it down. I would say, no, I don't want to do it. Talk to somebody else, talk to the singer, talk to whoever, and I wouldn't do it because I was still too guarded. Whereas now I am not guarded anymore. Now I'm just 100% open. I'll answer any damn questions anybody has, as long as they're respectful when they answer or ask me.
Right. But there's the there's the owning yourself of it all. Like, you finally come to the point where you don't really give a shit what anyone thinks about who you are. That I think if I were to be put in a similar situation, how could I possibly have the same, like, courage to be who I am in the face of other people having an opinion about it? Now, I don't know what that's like to have that kind of dissension, to have that so many people against what I feel to be natural to my own being.
And it's the exact opposite. I have no idea what it feels like to just be a cisgender guy, because I have no idea what that feels like. I wish I did. A lot of people have asked me, not a lot of people, but some people asked me back in the day, and even more recently, if I had a pill I could take that would make me not transgender anymore, would I take that pill? And I don't know. It's a really difficult question to ask. If you had asked me that back when I was first transitioning and I was going through hell, I probably would have said, yeah, just give me the pill. I don't want to do this. But now, after, I went through all the pain and suffering, and I mean, I'm sure there's still plenty down the road, but now it's made me who I am today, going through all of that and getting those scars and getting the calluses, and learning who I can trust, who I can't trust, who actually has my back and who doesn't have my back at all. Like, that has formed me into a person today that is much, much, much stronger than I was before I transitioned. A 30-year-old fake man that pretended to be something that they were not. That person was never even real.
Yeah.
Not even the slightest bit real.
I think that's an unfair question to even fucking ask of you.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, that pisses me off, because would someone ask me, Jaelyn, Pete, would you take a pill to make you not a straight white? Like, fuck you. Like, who
it's
cares?
Like, no, this is who I am.
This is just who I am. This is what it is. Like, it's second nature. It's like, would you take a pill to get rid of your left arm? No.
No. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Whether society likes it or not, whether it looks good on paper or it doesn't, for a bank loan or a job interview or a resume, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
It's a stupid fucking
this is who I am. Either they accept me 100%, or they can go fuck themselves. And it's a stupid
fucking question, in my opinion.
It is. It is. It is a very dumb question.
Like, would you take a pill to get rid of your ears?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, really? And in light of all this, like, I have a format to this show that we hit the ground running. We've known each other a very long time, so it makes sense that we skipped over it. But
Yeah.
my first question is always this: what is it, Jaelyn, that terrifies you on an existential level?
Losing the ability to not only be myself, but to express myself in the way I want to express myself, because that had been deprived from me or taken from me by myself for many, many years out of fear and hesitation and trepidation. And I would never want to go back into that cell again where I thought I couldn't say or feel the way I want to feel or fuck who I want to fuck or write how I want to write just because the public or my friends or my family might think poorly of me because of that.
Yeah.
Anything I say or do, hopefully people won't have a problem with. But I'm not the type of person that is going to hold my punches if a Nazi piece of shit comes walking by with a Nazi flag. I'm going to kick the shit out of him.
Of course.
That's just who I am. And whether people think violence is never the answer or not, it's not going to change my mind. Because sometimes
it's the fucking answer.
Sometimes it's the fucking answer. I mean, we fought whole wars over this shit. That's nothing but violence. You can't change certain things in the world or certain people with words. Sometimes you just can't. You have to either wait for them to die out or you have to change their mind.
And you answered a big question for me too, because Michael Malarkey, he is an actor. He was on the show Vampire Diaries, one of the major actors on it. And we were speaking about when the whole BLM versus the Nazi thing was going on when we were all locked down for COVID. And I'd said to him, like, what if we were to greet these Nazis with affection versus just striking out at them? And he, being as ultimately liberal as he is, said, you know what, maybe sometimes you just have to smack the fuck out of somebody.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Sometimes you just got to smack the fuck out of somebody, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, so sometimes you have to stand up for yourself. It's either you stand up for yourself and you or stand up for other people, which is usually the way I see it. I'm not standing up for myself when I stand up for trans rights and things like that. I've had it very lucky. There's plenty of women and men that had it much, much, much worse than I do, and still to this day have it much, much worse than I do. I stand up for them when I do anything about that, or when I stand up for Black Lives Matter or whatever. Obviously, I'm not standing up for myself. I'm standing up for them. So I'm doing it for other people, which is what makes me want to do it more. I never do anything for myself. I don't even buy myself clothes. I just realized I haven't gone shopping in like a couple of years. All the clothes I own are like a couple of years old. I should start doing some self-love.
Maybe you should, because I'll be honest though, like every time I see you on social media, you're always put together, very beautiful, very just like to me it seems like there's a lot of self-love going on, and maybe you're just
I think the
guileful.
self-love for me is all inside. It's all in my head. It's all working out problems. It's letting stress go. It's getting past whatever the problem of the day is, and just keep constantly moving forward. When it comes to outside appearance, I'm very lucky. I got my mom's genetics and I got my mom's features for the most part. And then when you're on hormone replacement therapy for 17 years, it does some awesome stuff. There's a reason why trans women go on it and trans men go on it. I did not look like this 17 years ago. I definitely did not look like this 17 years ago. If I mean, you saw me, but if people saw old photos of me of 20 years ago, they would say, no way, that's the same person. There's no way.
You were a very handsome man, as a matter of fact, and you
Thank
became
you,
this very gorgeous woman that, like the facial features, did they change? Yes, of course. But you were always a woman. And to me, it became very apparent very soon thereafter, because it seemed so natural. It didn't seem like a weird thing. It was just like, okay, yes, this is to be a pretty man, you have to be a pretty woman. Let's get down to the brass tacks of it.
I always took care of myself a little too much back then, and people would always say, "Oh, you're doing some manscaping," and I would pluck my eyebrows and stuff like that, and I would try to. Every once in a while, I would wear a little bit of makeup too, and sometimes I'd get caught out. They would be like, "Are you wearing concealer like makeup?" And I'd be like, "No, shut up, stupid." But of course I was, but that was just me trying to squeak through the armor a little bit, which got me in trouble, but it was okay. It was nothing I couldn't take care of.
Well, no, I mean, let's face facts. Nobody was fucking with you back then.
No, nobody would fuck with me.
No.
I mean, not only because of the fact that
you could handle yourself
through my martial arts training and Muay Thai and Jeet Kune Do and Wing Chun, like through all of that training, that built me up to the point where I could take care of myself if that happened. But I was also always surrounded by friends, like yourself and like the other guys and
Neil and everybody. Yeah,
and I knew, like, if I was out with one of them and some jackass tried to start a fight with me, it would be over in seconds, and I would never have to throw a punch.
Yeah.
So that was always a really nice feeling as well, to have your back, to have people take your back when you never thought they were going to. So that was a great feeling.
Yeah, everybody, like, it's kind of interesting that the love for you was always pretty much universal. You wouldn't run into anyone who would be like, Jaelyn's name would come up, everybody, oh yeah, love her,
I don't know. Like I said, I kept to myself for the most part, and I didn't really bother with anybody. I didn't want anybody to bother with me, and I'm always really easy to get along with. Treat me with respect, treat me with love and respect, and I will give you tenfold back. That's just how I've always been. So I guess it was just kind of easy for that's what made life easy for me back then. It's just not being a dick like Steve Goldman.
Yeah.
That's a joke. Don't tell him I said that.
I won't.
He will kill me.
And you're in option right now, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I know.
For my listeners, Option is kind of a ubiquitous hardcore band for the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area. They, from what was it, the Photo Negative demo onward, when we were like, you and I were the same age. We were pretty young, so that had to be like 89, 90.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. He's been ever present in the hardcore scene, and he's been a dick since we were kids, and we love Steve anyway.
He has been a dick. But so mad that when he hears this, he lives in Arizona now, by the way. But so I doubt he can come looking for me to yell at me. He'll call me. But he's been in a lot of the bands that I've been in. He sang in Option, obviously, that we just Option just got back together with a new crew, and I'm one of the new crew. We just released want to say we put out 4 songs. We have 5 or 6, but I think we only put out 4
Yeah.
songs. And so he was an option. He was in Stalemate. He was in Label the Traitor.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the bigger bands that I've ever played in, touring bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like he and I, every time we do anything musically, he ends up there. And on my album, with the cassette you have, he happens to be on that album. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did.
In there. Yeah. Because it seems wrong for me to do anything musically without including him at least something, because he's been together with me for like 25, 30 years.
Yep.
So
there's something about you with Steve and you with Keats that kind of snowballed.
Yeah, Keats is awesome. Keats was the producer of the first Stalemate album, and that was awesome. That was like, I'd always known Keats before that, but that was my first time I really got to know him. Because we were sitting in the studio for that long. And Keats is a great guy. I like him a lot.
And Catfish Bullhead was pretty amazing.
Catfish Bullhead. Those guys. Maddie Gray was playing with us in Label the Traitor. And Label the Traitor was first out there and about. Maddie Gray. I haven't seen him in a very long time, or talked to him in a very long time.
Matt's still around. Matt's he's playing in every band ever, as he always did,
Yeah, he did.
But there's something about our like group, the like 25 or 30 of us that kind of were always ever present in this area, in this scene, that always did things that were important and prescient and really, really celebratory. Like you could never pick up one of the records by any of these bands and not have a great time with it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, very importantly, you were always kind of at the center of it. Every band that really mattered to me from our area, be it Extend, Label the Traitor, and we shared band members, and I lost band members to the band you were in, and I understood it, I appreciated it. Everything you did mattered and made sense to what we were at that time period. There's something about what you do musically that resonates with the people from where we're at. And I think that needs to be applauded and pointed out and appreciated.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot to me. It really does.
We really all love you here.
I put my heart in everything I do, and it's nice to hear that someone at least understood and saw it.
We all kind of really love you, from this area. There's something about, like, your Jaelyn Robinson's name comes up. Yeah, everything she did was pretty much important to the point where you're ingrained in the fabric of what it is to be from this area and to be a hardcore kid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty more people that did much more than I did, but it is nice.
You Stephen, like maybe like Dan Agvoldson,
Yeah, there really was only a handful of us, but did you go to the that hardcore retrospective?
Yeah,
that was way back in the day.
Yeah,
they did it in Scranton, downtown Scranton, and that it was like an exhibit almost.
Yep,
that was fun. That was fun.
A good time. Yeah,
that was a really good time. I don't know. That just popped into my head because I think the anniversary of that wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't. And Hudak and I went, and we were kind of looking around like, should we feel antique right now?
Yeah. I felt antique. Oh man, I felt antique. I mean, that was after I transitioned, so it was weird to see a bunch of people there that hadn't seen me, the real me. So that was a little bit weird. But it was still fun. Still had a great time, and it was cool to see all the old photos and the videos and see all the friends again from back in the day. We should do that again sometime. That'd be fun.
I really wish we would, because, you know, if you were to look at most people wouldn't say, okay, the Scranton Wilkes-Barre hardcore scene, how important is it? Maybe not on a national level, but to the East Coast, and definitely to the upper East Coast, we were really a close-knit, really, really loving and artistic scene, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And Scranton Wilkes-Barre became a hub for every touring band to come through. You know, like we always had places for them to play. You know, and back in the day, you didn't really have that. You didn't have towns that were open and welcoming to hardcore original music bands. But yeah, Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, but most likely were more like music and Wilkes-Barre, because they had home base, and a few other not Mantis Green. Was it Mantis Green?
Mantis Green was in Wilkes-Barre, yeah.
Yeah, Mantis Green. And what was the other one?
No, the home base.
No, yeah, but there was another one now.
Oh, oh God, it was a cafe, Metropolis.
Yeah, Cafe Metropolis. Yeah, that was also cool. Plus all the fire halls, of course. But we always found like if a touring band needed a place to play, one of us found them a show. One of us, if we didn't have a show that night, we would put on a goddamn show so that touring band had a place to come and stay.
Columbia or Independence Fire Hall.
Yeah. Yeah. We were always helping out not only each other and our local scene, but as much as we could help out other bands touring, because we knew what that was. You know, we knew, like, you're going out there with pennies in your pocket and you're coming home with pennies in your pocket, and hopefully you're not too starving and you don't smell too bad by the time you get home. But it was all worth it. It was for the experience. It was just for, you know, the joy of being able to go out there and see all the people, meet new people, see new cities, see new towns, and just explore the world a little bit.
What was it like for you then to come from our little microcosm and move to a place like Philadelphia?
Oh my God. I'm still in somewhat shock about how big this freaking place is. I'm afraid to walk by myself sometimes because there's so many people and I'm not used to that. It's like sensory overload. I don't like driving downtown. I don't live near the city. I live in West Philadelphia right now. Yeah.
In West Philadelphia, born and raised?
Yeah. I was going to say Fresh Prince is coming up in people's heads right now. But yeah, I live in West Philadelphia right now. We bought a house a few months ago now, and it's a beautiful house. Love it. Love the neighborhood. The scene here is really cool. West Philly's got its own little music scene. And it's really, really nice. But it's crazy. Like, I remember in Scranton, sometimes the traffic would be bad around 5 o'clock, 5:30-ish, you know, something like that. Like, you're trying to get to Wilkes-Barre, you're trying to get home from Wilkes-Barre, because there'd be many times where I'd have a job doing something in Wilkes-Barre and have to drive home at 5:30. So you're like, oh man, this sucks. It takes me an extra 20 minutes to get home. That's bullshit when it comes to Philly, because holy fuck, you have to leave your house before 4 o'clock, because after 4 o'clock, you're fucked. So leave before 4 o'clock and be well away from any city area until about 7:30 or 8 o'clock is when the traffic starts to come down. If you try to go from one end of the city to the other end of the city starting at 4 o'clock, it's going to take you an hour and a half to drive 8 miles, 9 miles, because of how terrible the traffic is and how the roads are always blocked and there's always construction. There's always, some kind of an event going on, or like if I have to go downtown, I have to go through Drexel, I have to go through the college town and stuff, like the little college areas, and there's a trillion little kids running around. I call them little kids. They're all like 18, 19 years old, but you know what I mean? So, yeah, so it's crazy. It's a huge, huge difference from living in Scranton to living in a giant city with, 3 million people.
But, conversely speaking, living in this giant city, is it real, like the redneck of it all? Because even though we're on the East Coast, even though we were the place where when people were on the Underground Railroad, they would spill into our state. So much has changed between then and now, where the headquarters of the Ku Klux Klan is in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and has been since the 1960s.
It's crazy.
I
don't know how anybody didn't burn that fucking thing down by now.
I wish we would have, but like truly, like as a man who's married to a woman of color and has a child with, like I have a child who's mixed race, how do I reconcile that? Like that we're in this place where bigotry shouldn't be, because contextually it doesn't make sense here.
Yeah.
But in all reality, it's alive, well, and breeding in this shitty little corner of the East Coast.
No, I know. Before I moved to Philly, I had a house in Clark Summit, which is, as you know, right next to Scranton. And come election time, all the people you think are cool people and stuff, they all have the Trump things up, Trump flags and Trump signs, and you're like, holy fuck, I'm surrounded by assholes. Like I have no idea. But it's pretty insane. But here, I mean, you're not going to find very many of that here. You're just not. You're just not going to find that. There's the last election shows you that Philly went massively for Biden, like it would have been any other way, honestly. But there could have been a turtle with a D on it, and Philly would have voted for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, especially West Philly. It's very liberal here. It's very progressive here. There's trans people, non-binary people everywhere, just like kind of walking around, which is a weird thing for me, because back where I come from, you don't see that. You see.
Yeah.
You see another trans woman on the street or in the mall, and you're like, oh my God, there's a unicorn, and it's like, it's crazy. But like here, so I'm walking down the street in West Philly, there was an event called Porch Fest, which is just like a whole bunch of porches, like in these old school houses. Bands would set up and they would play on the porches, and there was a schedule that you could go to each house and see each band. So it was really, really cool. It's a fun little daytime thing. And I'm just like, whoa, there's a trans woman. Whoa, there's a trans woman. Whoa, there's another trans woman. Oh my God, how are they all here?
Yeah.
And it was a great feeling, because I didn't feel like I was weird or left out or awkward. I was just like, okay, well, this is the place where I should be, because I think I'm going to be accepted here more than I am in anywhere else in Pennsylvania.
And the place that, had born you and reared you.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like my circle and my family, of course, were cool, but it didn't have to go far outside that to get to people that would have wanted to beat me up just for the fun of it.
That's a fucking sin, in my opinion, because this is what you had imparted culturally, musically, on the landscape of what was to eventually become a greater punk scene in this area. The love that you should have been shown was not imparted upon you, whereas you moved 2 hours south and it's a given.
Yeah. Yeah.
that pisses me off, just like predicated on the fact that, like, we should have always been that. It should have always been that way. We're not in the deep South. We're not in the hollers of Kentucky or wherever.
Life would have been much easier if that were the case.
Right.
Would have been so much easier for me. Maybe I could have come out sooner. Maybe I could have found that support circle that could have, replaced that old rage armor, rather than, just letting it, just keeping it on until by I was 30. I'm very lucky though, because there's plenty of women, trans women, that don't transition until they're well into their 50s or even 60s. And I feel terrible for that, just because so much of their life has been, I can't say wasted, because I don't know who that person is or what they did with their life, but just living as somebody else, as somebody that they were not. I mean, yes, I did 30 years, but it's almost like, wow, I just said it like it was prison. I just totally did that. And in the back of my head, it made fucking sense. It totally did. I did 30 years.
It makes sense. It makes sense to me, because like, you were trapped in a body that you didn't choose or deserve, and compounded by the fact that you had to deal with that in an area and around a group of people that probably wouldn't have accepted your self-determination. I find that offensive.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, no, things now are starting to get a lot better for people. It's not easy by any means, but it's definitely getting easier now, with representation on TV and in movies, and famous people coming out, like I'm not going to remember, Elliot.
Elliot Page.
Elliot Page. I could not think of his last name. God damn it. Sorry, Elliot, if you ever hear this. Yeah, something like that happens, and even seeing all the pushback that he has gotten is ridiculous. But if it was 20 years prior to this, it would have been much worse. I don't know if he would have been able to do it.
I think you know what I think a lot of it has to do with. Elliot Page, pre-transition, was an attractive female. You, pre-transition, were an attractive, presenting male. I think in all reality, they translate to one another, but to most people, they find it kind of jarring, because, oh, I admired this person as this, so it doesn't make sense as that. When in all reality, symmetry is symmetry. Okay. If someone is pretty as a man, they're more than likely pretty as a woman, and vice versa. It makes sense. It's just about symmetry. It's nothing else. There's no gender really attached to that, if you think about it. And I think that's really where the revulsion comes into play, because, oh no, I was attracted to them as this. So now that they're that, I can't handle that.
Yeah, I actually had one of my ex-girlfriends. I had several cisgender girlfriends while I was growing up, pre-transition, and then after I transitioned, she actually had the balls to say to me, ironically, she had the balls to say to me, I can't believe we dated for as long as we did, because now I look like a lesbian. And I'm thinking to myself, holy fuck, that is the shittiest thing I think anyone has ever said to me. Number one, who gives a fuck if someone thought you were a lesbian?
Right.
And number two, what the fuck does it matter? Like, who cares? Like, how shallow are you to let something like that bother you? to, where's your integrity? Where's your strength to say, fuck you, I was not in the relationship because that I thought that person was male. I was in the relationship because I liked that person.
Yeah.
And so what if I didn't know what that gender of that person was? Like, it's really sad that people are so caught up on genders, and boys have to date girls, and girls have to date boys, and then you say, well, there are gay people, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, boys can date boys, and girls can date girls, and then that's it. Like that's as far as people will go. But when you say, well, this is a transgender woman, so they have maybe, possibly different genitalia than a cisgender woman would have. So now it's different. Now they're not allowed to date a boy because then it's gay. And if they date a girl, then they're lesbians. It's almost like it has its own special rules. It's like if a person with a penis dates a person with a penis, that's gay. But if a person with a penis dates a person with a vagina, that's fine. That's straight.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot of times, and it's like, that is not true in the slightest bit. Genitalia should have no bearing over what your orientation is. I don't know. It gets really deep. It's too difficult for me to even understand. I don't understand a lot of the gender binaries and non-binaries. And so I don't want to go off on a tangent on something I don't understand, because people are going to look at me and be like, Jaelyn, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, which is very true, and I will agree with that.
I think it subtracts spirituality and emotion from the equation of what it is to be in an interpersonal relationship with another human being, though. When you limit it to the strictures that we've just discussed, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. For me, to be in a relationship with somebody, be they male or female, whether they're cisgender or not, I have to love the person first and foremost. What is in their pants or under their skirt has no bearing over whether they're a good person or not. And if I can't get past the person that they are, say how are they aligned politically, or how they feel about charity, or what's their favorite music. They say Slipknot, I'm probably turning the page, swiping right on that, or left, or whatever it's called. Or if they say something like, Hitler had some points. I don't care what's in their person's pants.
Yeah.
That person's a piece of shit. We're not going to date. I don't care how attractive they are. So the person first has to meet the requirements of IQ and morality that I have. You have to meet an IQ and morality test. If you can pass those tests, I don't care what's in your pants. We'll figure that out when we get to it.
And in truth, like cisgendered male that I am, what I fell in love with about my wife before I'd gotten into her pants or anything like that was what was between her ears. And my wife is a very attractive woman. But before that, we'd had this very long, drawn out conversation on the phone where this very, very intellectually superior woman expressed to me her love of the arts and her love of film. She'd gone to film school. I was so enamored of her.
That's awesome.
If I had gone to a place sexually where it was something that was foreign to me, would it really make sense? Probably not. I mean, at what point does it matter?
Right, exactly. I mean, like,
if she's a woman to her, she's a woman.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, I mean, if you want to, I guess the only time it would ever matter, which is kind of goes without saying, is if you want to have babies together without adopting. I suppose then it gets tricky as to who has what genitalia. But other than that, if you're not planning on having children, you don't want children like myself,
Right.
then what does it matter? It doesn't matter in the slightest bit. And
It's still so
the
easy
world
to
is
have kids.
slowly getting there. Not the world. Certain areas are slowly getting there and starting to realize that, which is great. We still have miles and miles to go, but like I said, things are starting to get a little bit easier. And the whole concept of male and female, I'm hoping that they are starting to gray over a little bit, because that's what it really needs to do. Because nobody, in my opinion now, nobody is 100% male and nobody is 100% female. Everybody has a little bit of everything. That's just who we are. That's how our brains are formed. That's just who, how we be. I don't know.
If you're in touch with yourself by any stretch of the imagination, there are, echoes of mom and echoes of dad and echoes of aunt and uncle and grandma and grandpa. Like, the things that we cull from the people we love make up the sum total of who we are as people, be it male, be it female, be it this, that, or the other. So am I 100% one thing? Fuck no. No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No, nobody is.
No.
And it's just the whole, the gender roles where boys have to be tough and strong and they can't cry and they have to go to work and they have to be the breadwinners and all that kind of stuff. And then the women have to be soft and feminine and they have to be able to take care of the home and be able to have babies, and they have to play with dolls, and boys have to play with baseball bats and army men and stuff like that. It's so ridiculous. It's so that we ingrain it into our children from a very, very early age when they're babies. Not everyone does this, but most people do this, and most people from the past do this. Whereas, if you're having a baby boy, everything is blue in the baby's room. If you're never having a baby girl, everything is pink or yellow in the baby's room. And it's almost like we start grooming them.
I'm in my son's room right now. This is where I film.
Yeah.
What color are these walls in my son's room?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Pink.
That's awesome.
Because he's a he now just because he was born with whatever, but whatever he wants to be, that's on him.
Yeah, whatever he is, he will let you know in time. And they like he will let you know. Yep, I'm definitely cisgender. I'm cool with who I am and what I am. Or he'll let you know that he's not. That's the most important part. And if there are any parents that are listening, if your child says that they are transgender, listen to them. That doesn't mean schedule surgeries immediately. That doesn't mean that. That means listen to them, believe them, and let them figure things out respectively and safely, of course, and never try to make those decisions for them. They will figure it out much, much faster than you, since you have zero frame of reference as to what they are thinking or what they are feeling. So it's better to let them tell you who they are than you try to make them be who you want them to be. Even if it feels weird or creepy or gross, or what is Chuck on the golf course going to think if my kid is wearing a dress? Like, it's not about you or Chuck, it's about your kid.
In all honesty, this generation, my kids' generation, I have to believe that this is the best time, even though things are crazy right now with international goings on and school shootings and whatnot. As far as identity, as far as self-determination, is this not kind of the best time for kids to be alive?
Because it is. Like I was saying, like, things are getting easier. I mean, they have the internet at their fingertips, as long as they're not too sheltered or controlled, then
Mhm.
they have the internet at their fingers. I mean, imagine if you and I like grew up in a time when we were like 3 or 4 or 5 years old, and we got our first tablet, and we were able to play games on the tablet and go to websites and play games with other kids, or excuse me, be able to read that way without having to go to the library or get a book and all that kind of nonsense.
Mhm.
And then as we grow up a little bit, maybe mom and dad, or dad and dad, or mom and mom allow us to start surfing the internet a little bit more. Like for you, it probably would have helped you be able to become yourself a little bit more and understand more about yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, it would have also done the same exact thing. So I think now technology is, it's a curse, but it's also a blessing, because it puts information on the table for anybody to be able to get it if they want it, and if you know how to check your sources. Always check your sources 2 sources deep, at least, to get correct information.
It's incredible to me too, because I have my first cousin, I love him dearly, but he's very right-wing-ish, and he has a daughter who has told him within the past year and a half that I am gender non-binary, and I want
Right.
to be known as this name and not this name. And instead of railing against it and getting right-wingy about it, he took a different road because he loves his child and allowed his child to be his child and accepted it instead of getting crazy about it. Ergo,
That's amazing.
not forcing his child away from him. And not only do I applaud his foresight for not getting crazy about it and forcing his kid away, but I applaud him for being enough of a parent to allow whatever this child's going through to come to fruition without animosity.
Without animosity, without guilt, without
Yeah.
shame, without saying Jesus won't love you anymore.
Yeah.
You won't get cookies when you die and go to heaven. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to go in with the normal people. Like that kind of terrible shit that they teach in their churches, especially the kids. So I'm very glad that that person has allowed, not even allowed, but just had the mental fortitude and emotional stability in order to be able to, like, can't say allow because that doesn't really work, but
No, but
understand that their child is different, and that child is going to make those decisions, as long as they are being safe about it. Like, I always have to add that, because I'm not saying if your 10-year-old child comes up to you and says that they are transgender, that doesn't mean immediately that they are transgender.
no, that means they're 10.
There's confusion. Like almost every boy in the world has tried on girls' clothes one time.
Absolutely. Or wondered, am I gay? It's happened.
It happens all the time. That doesn't mean that anything. It just means if they tell you by the third time or so, like second or third time, that this is who I am, that's when you have to start 100% believing them.
Yeah.
Especially as they grow up. Because it's amazing when you can do that and how much better the child will turn out. I didn't have that ability when I was a kid because I was too afraid, and I don't think the world was ready yet. Certainly not my little world.
Not in our age group, no.
No. So I'm very glad that it is today getting easier for kids and even for parents, because it's not an easy thing for a parent to go through either, because not only does the kid have to go through hell and get stereotyped and get pigeonholed into certain things, the parents also get that as well. The parents, like other parents, especially conservative jerk ass parents, will say something like, well, they must have raised that child differently. They must have done something wrong. They must have broke that child. So it also brings shame to them in a way that doesn't bring it to the child. They have to go through a whole different hell. But I can also see it happening with the parents. I mean, there's even parts of the country where they're trying to legislate. Texas is trying to, if you allow your son or your daughter or whatever to go through gender therapy, you are in danger of committing a crime now in Texas. And you can, I don't know a lot about it so I don't want to speak too much about it, but all I know is that is a terrible thing.
It's the don't say gay thing.
Yeah, it's that type of thing. And it's ridiculous. That's other people trying to control other people's children. That's what that is.
And
just
I can tell
just like they've been trying to control us for many, many, many years. Oh, I don't like drinking on Sundays, so close all the bars on Sundays. And it's like, what? You know?
Yeah.
Or I don't like doing whatever. I don't know. It's getting late and my brain's starting to turn off. But they try to control other people because they don't want to do a particular thing and they think a certain thing is yucky or icky or weird, so they don't want anybody else to do it. It's not enough for them to believe like they do and live how they do. They won't be happy until everybody else lives and believes the way they do as well. And which is terrible. And that affects the transgender community greatly.
It affects the gay community greatly too, because I can tell you with a great degree of certainty that when my brother Gavin was born, he was gay. And I knew it when he was 2. It was self-evident. And he'd gone I'd watched this human being who I loved with all of my fucking heart and soul go through the motions of having girlfriends and living this life that wasn't his. And he goes through all of this and to finally arrive at what I'd known was self-evident, that he was a homosexual. And I was so relieved when he came out, and he got mad at me. I was like, I'm so relieved that you're just not going against yourself anymore. He got mad at that time period, but ultimately he was like, I'm glad you said that, because that's who I was.
Yeah.
I didn't want my brother to suffer. I just wanted my brother to be who he was. And I thought that was beautiful and okay and completely fine. And I think that ultimately, to bring all of this into closing, was how most of us felt for you when you said, you know something, this isn't who I am. I'm wearing clothing that doesn't fit me.
Yeah.
And that's what it really is. I'm wearing clothing that doesn't fit me.
The clothing didn't fit me. My face didn't fit me. My chest didn't fit me. My butt didn't fit me. Nothing fit me. I hated everything about myself. I refused to look in a mirror many, many times because I didn't want to see that person looking back at me.
And that's not fair to you.
No, it's not. But I mean, it is what it is. It's how we are born. It's nothing I could have done about it, even if I wanted to.
But now, now
I can change all that.
Yeah.
Now I've already changed all that, and I'm much happier now with who I am and what I am. I'm much, much happier.
And I think everyone who cares about you feels the same way, because you get to not have to suffer the strictures and the ideas that people place on you from birth, or that it's not a thing anymore. We're different now. We're all different now. Yeah. And it sucks that we all had to be different for you to be different.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
where we're
that's
at.
that's what it is. That's what it is. You have to wait until the time is right, because it's just it would not have worked if I did it earlier. Um, and I don't know if it would have worked if I did it later. Who knows where my life would be if I waited another 5 years? I have no idea where I don't know if I would be alive, because that would be within the time of, this whole genetic bone marrow thing was kicking up, and I could have died of a massive heart attack and had no idea I even had the condition. Yeah, so I guess my boobs saved my life.
It's fucking awesome. So, in closing, your boob saved your life, and I have to say, this record kind of it reinvigorated my love of what it is to create hardcore music within the confines of people from where we're from, and culling from the influences that we all come from, but having the conscience and the intellect of what your life was injected into it. I think that's so important and so very, very crucial.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate it, and appreciate you talking to me. And it made me feel really good. I'm sorry I had to cancel on you like 84 times. Every single time I'm like, fuck, I have to cancel again. Or like I would forget about it. Like the one time I was out shopping, I was at Ollie's buying snacks or some shit. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm like 45 minutes from my house and the interview is right now. But
It's not in my nature to be mad about something like that, just because that's who I am. And furthermore, I hold you in a regard that I don't really hold that many people to, because we did come from the same place, and you were
yeah,
always
we're cut from the same cloth.
we are, and you were always so cool to me. I always had an affinity for you as a person, so there was very little you could do to piss me off.
Okay. I'm very glad, because I probably would have pissed off anybody else.
No.
But yeah, thank you very much for doing this. It's super amazing. And I will send you, like I said, we're going to do these 3 singles soon. The first of the 3, I think you will like it very, very much, because it has a lot more hardcore-y feeling to it.
Yeah.
Because of where it is in the story. This is the bad guys' theme, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
For them finding out that the good guys killed one of the 7 sisters, which are supposed to be invincible. You can't just walk up and kill something like that. Well,
Yeah.
this is their reaction to that, and it is very 1997 or 8 hardcore in some spots, and like there's little touches in there. Hopefully you'll like it, and I'll send it to you as soon as I have it done, so you can listen.
I can't wait to hear it. And just do me a favor, when the next record or cassette or whatever is ready to come out, just come back on with me so we could dive more into the music.
Absolutely.
Folks, that was Jaelyn Robinson. The song you're hearing right now is the brand new non-album track, the next single in this cycle of songs from Jaelyn, The Sisters 7. Please get over to Bandcamp, or just go to Bandcamp. How about that? And pay your $1 and get this phenomenal song. It is everything that she told me it would be and more. Absolutely incredible. So I'd like to thank you all for hanging in there and listening to me get a little loose. Jaelyn was very professional. I think toward the end she was holding the conversation together. And for that I thank her, and for the years of music and friendship, I thank her. So with all of that being said, she's been Jaelyn. I've been Peter. You've been beautiful. From 3:33 a.m. Studios, this has been the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. Take care of each other, everybody, and I'll see you again next week. The season's almost over. I'm going to take a month off and just enjoy thinking about what I'm going to do next season. Bye for now.